Hello everybody, hope y'all are doing good out there. So recently I put up a post on YouTube and the idea was to mention the things that you use your knife for the most. And I got lots of comments. Thanks for every one of y'all out there who commented. I read through the comments and I noticed what the most tasks were that people did commonly. Because when we talk about an EDC knife, we're not talking about a knife for every occasion. We're talking about a knife for most days. For instance, if you're a hunter, and there's a certain time of year that you go out and maybe hunt white-tailed deer or something like that, maybe you use a special knife to skin that deer. Why, you don't need to carry that knife with you every day. Hunting season only comes around once a year. So that's not an EDC knife. An EDC knife is a task that's very regular that you wind up doing quite often. Well, anyways, I had asked what y'all use your EDC tasks for the most, and I compiled the list, and I picked out some of the most common things. Now, really, there was only about 7 common things that we are commonly using our EDC knives for, and the reason why I did this was to test this on certain knives to see if it can do these. I just wrote them down real quick here. I didn't take any time to write them out real clear with handwriting or nothing. But got a lot of zip ties, which I expected that one. One that took me by surprise was feed sacks. I cut a lot of feed sacks because we got a lot of chickens. But I had no idea that so many people who are watching these videos cut a lot of feed sacks. So feed sack made it on the list. Pencil. Pencil does not surprise me at all. I use coloring pencils all the time when I'm studying, and I have to sharpen them. Letters, of course, letters, that's not surprising at all. Tape, common, that seems right. Cardboard. I don't cut much cardboard, but I know some people do. Normally, if I'm cutting a cardboard box, I just cut the tape on it, then usually I just rip it down the middle if I need to. But nevertheless, cardboard was common. And then lastly, food tasks. Now, I just did food tasks to leave it kind of broad. Some people said cutting potatoes, some was cutting onions, some was cutting carrots. Some's cutting apples, some's cutting peaches, pears. We get the idea, though. It needs to be a knife that can do certain food tasks. Also, I didn't do this on purpose, but I did coincidentally come up with a list of things not to do with the knife. Some of the recommendations I got were pretty interesting. Now, any of y'all who recommended some of these I'm about to mention that we won't be doing, no offense by it, but nevertheless, these are some things we won't be doing here. One was open bottle lids. Unless your knife has a bottle opener on it, it's not made to open bottle lids. I've got some knives that have had some serious damage done from people using them to open bottle lids. If you're going to do that, do it at your own risk. Second one, turning screws. Unless your knife has a screwdriver on it, don't use it to turn screws. That blade steel is not made to do that, and it's very easy to break your blade off. My grandpa did that to so many knives, it's sad. But he did that, and after he died, I got his knife collection and so many nice knives he'd broken the tips off on. Cleaning toenails. Well, you can do that, but you just got to be super careful. That one would be a good one to test, because that would take out a lot of knives out of the running, because you got to have a super thin blade. Cutting wire. Oh, that's awful. I've got a buck 112 that somebody put wire under at one point and then put the blade down on the wire and then I guess stomped on it or smashed it real hard. Put an indentation in the brass and the blade. We don't want to be cutting wire with our knives. And then prying out staples. Oh, prying out staples. That's a good way to bend your blade if them staples are in there too tight. But nevertheless, those were some of the things that we won't be doing. I'm going to do another video doing these things, but I'm going to be doing them with the tool that does these things. And that's a good video for the Leatherman when I do that, because I like to carry a Leatherman with me. But when I need to open a bottle lid, I open up my Leatherman and I pull out my bottle opener. When I need to turn a screw, I pull out my Leatherman and I either pull out my Phillips or my flathead and turn the screw. When I need to clean out under my nails, I always use the awl. It's got a great tip on it, and you can really get under your nails good to clean all the grease out if you've been messing with engines or whatever. Cutting wire, why? You can see what I use to cut the wire with. Use your wire cutters. and prying out staples. By prying out staples, you maybe end up using multiple tools for that. Maybe you start off with your flathead screwdriver to get them up, and then grab them with your needle nose and pull them out. Point being, if you're doing these tasks regularly with your pocket knife, buy a Leatherman Bond. It's not much heavier than your pocket knife, and it comes with a 25-year warranty. It's about the same price as a case knife. You can get it for $59.99 regular price. That's with a sheath and the 25-year warranty, brand new. And it's made to do all these tasks, and it can handle them. So I want to recommend that anybody who's doing these things all the time, get one of these Leathermans. But aside from that, these are some of the things that we will be doing. And so I thought I'd kick it off today with one of my favorite knives. This one right here is one of my favorites. It's just such a classy knife. This is the Gumfuddy Peanut with the black Delrin, and has like a worm groove texturing on it. Got brass pins, nickel, silver bolsters. It's got your like a worm groove jigging on it. It's got neat history too, because it's modeled after the knives that were made back in the 1940s. Brass liners, stainless steel back springs, stainless steel mirror polished blades. It's a really beautiful knife, and it's one of my favorites. I don't know why, but it's one of my favorites. I like it a lot. You don't have to have a fancy handle material on a knife. You know, I recently picked up that Stag Peanut, and that Stag Peanut's a beautiful knife, but it's no better than this knife. Not as far as knives go. It's worth a little more money, but as far as knives go, this right here is just an excellent, excellent knife, and I like this one a whole lot. This is the 6220 Peanut pattern from Case, and a lot of people think that it's too small to do what they need it to, and we've done multiple videos and challenges before where we've talked about the capability, so I'm kicking this off with this Peanut. We're going to begin by sharpening a pencil here. Of course, I could use either blade to do this, but whenever I use these when I'm highlighting in my Bibles because they don't bleed through, and I don't want a real sharp tip, because I'm not writing with them. I'm using them like a highlighter. So I like to leave a good square tip on the end of these pencils. These are just regular Crayola colored pencils. A set will last you for a long, long time. And like I say, if you like to highlight in your Bible when you're studying, go ahead and get some of these, and you'll see what good pencils they are. And what a good job they do highlighting. I usually leave my tip something like that, kind of blunt, because I don't want it to leave real sharp lines. But there's the Peanut right there, doing our first task, sharpening a pencil. Okay, our next job is just to cut a zip tie. Now, there's different sizes of zip ties. These are just them regular ones that are the most common. I don't know what the official name would be for them, but nevertheless. A minute, having trouble there getting that one to grab. Okay. See if we can cut through this again. Could use either blade here on the Peanut. I think I'm going to use the little pen blade again. We'll see if this one holds or not. I was wanting it to hold with some tension on it, just because it would make it easier. So, there you go. Next is the feed sack. Again, you know, we all know this knife ain't going to have any trouble at all. I'm cutting through this feed sack, but nevertheless, we're going to do it just to do it. That right there is the pen blade. And the clip blade would be even better, because it's a little bit longer. Next, we have tape. Now, some of these, I know that these knives aren't going to have any trouble cutting through this, but here we go. So this right here is regular old tape. Didn't have any problem at all, did it? I'm going to add one of my own here. Now, this is one that a lot of people probably won't ever do, but cutting weed eater string. You end up having to do that sometimes on the farm, and this is some super tough weed eater string. It's the square. It's like a square shape. No, it's triangle, and it's super, super stiff. So this stuff's hard to cut through. So this one probably don't really count, But nevertheless, I just want to show that you can do that also, and you don't have any trouble with that. Now, I don't have a letter nearby to open, so I'm just going to let this cardboard, one of these cardboard packages, it's not like a box cardboard, but I'm going to let this stand in for the letter. You can see you didn't have any trouble cutting through that. And next we have cardboard. There's no problem at all. I'm going to go ahead and clean this blade up a speck before we do any food tasks. Just put some soap on there and wash it off good. Now, when it comes to food tasks, the big thing it's going to come down to is the knife able to cut all the way through? So that's where the blade length is going to come into play. That's where that comes into. But most people are not going to be using their pocket knife to do most of their kitchen cooking. Normally they're going to be using something like kitchen knife, like this Victorinox paring knife or something along those lines. But nevertheless, I do use my knife sometimes to do this stuff, and I want to show that it's easy to do. And so I cut potatoes more than anything else. But whether it's a potato, whether it's an onion, whether it's carrot, whether it's tomato, size is the big question. So I'm just going to cut one of our fresh tomatoes here, just to show you that we aren't going to have any trouble. And again, I'm going to be using the pin blade this time. I've been using the clip blade. I've been using the pin blade more than the other in this video. But this time I'm going to use the clip blade. But nevertheless, this is going to come down to how sharp your knife is more than anything else. And, of course, how good your tomatoes are. This one here is just a little bit too ripe. But nevertheless, you can see that this knife has no trouble at all slicing a tomato. Part of that comes down to the nice thin blade stock of the peanut. A lot of the modern knives that have these bigger, thicker blades is going to struggle a lot more on a task like slicing up some tomato. So this is going to count in for our food tasks. Now, some other people had mentioned sharpening a stick, like to use it to skew hot dogs or something over a fire. But I figured that the pencil kind of stands in for that same thing. So that's why I didn't do that. But nevertheless, the last one on the list is to cut paper. You all saw I didn't use the main clip blade for much, except for just slicing up the tomato. I used the pin blade for the rest. But that's the clip blade. Here comes the pin blade. Cuts through paper fine also. I'm also going to throw in a few extras that I won't be doing every time, but that were mentioned. This test is to see if the blade can fit in a tight place. Now, this is something that a lot of people may never mess with, but is a big deal in my personal life because we do a lot of gardening and so on, and we're all the time messing with fences and these zip ties. And when you got a zip tie around a fence like that, it can be harder to get in there and cut it. I'm not going to cut this zip tie because I'm not ready to take this fence down. I already showed that the knife can cut a zip tie. But nevertheless, I just we're testing this to see if the blade is slim enough to fit. And as you can see right there, that blade fits right in there. That was the pin blade. Now we're going to do it with the test the clip blade. Clip blade also fits, as you can see. So this knife passes this test. Now, for two other things that were mentioned. Some people were mentioning that they like to use their knife to clean out under their fingernails. Now, I generally don't do that, but nevertheless, take your pin blade there. I don't know if I'll ever get this to focus, but nevertheless, that blade is slim enough, as you can see, to clean out under your fingernails. I can't get the camera to focus when I'm doing that. Nevertheless, this little pin blade, you can fit it right in there, and you can clean the grease out of your fingernails if you've been working on a car or a bicycle or something. What about the pin blade? The clip blade. The pin blade did fine. I'm sure the clip blade would too, but I think the pin blade's probably a better option on the peanut. And the other thing that was mentioned was digging out splinters. Now, I'm not going to go get a splinter so I can dig it out on camera. That would be awful. Nevertheless, when it comes down to digging out a splinter, what's going to matter is a sharp tip. How sharp is the tip? And as you can see, the peanut has a very sharp tip on the clip point. And so you would be able to dig out a splinter with this blade without any problems at all. So without testing it out, I'm going to go ahead and give this a pass and say yes, it certainly would dig out a splinter without any troubles at all, because the tip is nice and sharp enough to do. I had a splinter the other day right on my finger right there. I think if I can get the camera to focus, you can still kind of see the indentation right there. I dug that out the other day, but I didn't use the peanut to do it. But nevertheless, if I got in a crunch, I could do that. And the reason people do stuff like this is if they, get something under their nails, like, if you ever got like a twig wedged under your nail, it'll hurt real bad. It's nice to be able to have a knife that you could dig that out with. Or if you got a splinter that was hurting real bad, didn't want to wait all day till you got home to get it out, it's nice to have a knife that can do a simple task like that. So yeah, I think that's basically got it. What do y'all think? I think that was a pretty good round to test. Using a knife for what a knife's meant to be used for. We weren't trying to cut down any trees or butcher any cows. We were just using an EDC pocket knife for what an EDC pocket knife is meant to be used for. And as you saw, this peanut here, he didn't have any trouble at all doing any of these tasks. It all was easy. Sometimes a knife can do a task, but you have to get creative and put a little hard effort into it. That was not the case with this peanut. It was easy to do, as you saw. I didn't redo any of these. All these were just shot first try because it was just easy to do. The hardest part was setting up the camera right, but easy task. And as you saw, I used the pen blade for most of them. No particular reason for that except that it's just a great blade. It's good and stout. It's a good length, good shape, works good. But peanut's one of my favorite patterns, and I thought I'd kick off this with this knife right here. Thanks to everybody who commented and said some of their tasks they do the most often. And this just shows, with the task you do most often, something like a peanut is a great knife. It's certainly sufficient, and in some ways I think it's even better than a bigger knife. Because when we do some bigger knives, we're going to notice that there's going to be a few drawbacks. And they're not big deals, because everybody's got a different way they use their knife, different tasks they do, but they are something to be mentioned. Thank you all for watching, y'all. Have a good day, and make sure you keep your knives sharp.